The Battle of Gettysburg was a turning point in the Civil War. It represented the Union victory that ended General Robert E. Lee's second and most ambitious invasion of the North. This battle is considered the bloodiest one of the Civil War, and it is regarded as the event that inspired Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address. Anarchy in any form is not acceptable, and anyone who supports it must be exposed to public outrage. The tolerance of people has dipped regarding anything that tries to squash their spirits and plunder their self respect. Although all the evidence suggests that aging giant stars will meet fiery ends in the near future, we do not know when their demise will come. In cosmic terms, near future could well be several hundred thousand years from now. Physicians who provide medical care for children who are acutely or chronically ill and who also provide preventive health services for healthy children are called pediatricians. These doctors ensure the physical, mental, and emotional well being of the children under their care at every stage of development, in both sickness and health. Demagogues have existed since the times of ancient Greece, and their only efforts has been towards the democracy imbibed public, who they provoke by appealing to their fears and prejudices, or towards the ignorant and socio-economically lower classes. Philately is the study of postage stamps, stamped envelopes, postmarks, postcards, and other materials relating to postal delivery. The term philately is also related to the activity of collecting these items. The term was coined in 1864 by Georges Herpin, a Frenchman, from the Greek philos, which means love, and atelia, which means that which is tax free.
Digital hearing aids are much better than analog ones in terms of weight.
Digital hearing aids are much better than analog ones in terms of weight.
The restaurants at the Bay are overcrowded on the weekends.
The restaurants at the Bay are overcrowded on the weekends.
Any activity that is against the college rules will have repercussions.
Any activity that is against the college rules will have repercussions.
Professors and non-teaching staff have different days off during the week.
Professors and non-teaching staff have different days off during the week.
The transport services inside the campus are quite smooth and comfortable.
The transport services inside the campus are quite smooth and comfortable.
Communicable diseases are the most common source of tension in the hostel.
Communicable diseases are the most common source of tension in the hostel.
Chips and pasta are the most consumed food items in the cafeteria.
Chips and pasta are the most consumed food items in the cafeteria.
Movie theaters around the campus are always crowded with students during the day.
Movie theaters around the campus are always crowded with students during the day.
Bangles and bracelets are common accessories among men and women studying in college.
Bangles and bracelets are common accessories among men and women studying in college.
The University of Minnesota offers a free laptop to every management student.
The University of Minnesota offers a free laptop to every management student. This bar chart illustrates the declining trend related to the percent of US workforce engaged in farm labor in the 19th century. In 1840, for example, around 69% of the US workforce was engaged in farm labor. In 1860, almost 60% of the workforce was engaged in farm labor. In 1880, only 50% of the US workforce was engaged in farm labor. And in 1900, less than 40% of the US workforce was engaged in the farm labor. This bar chart displays information regarding the percentages of signed and oral communication that children used before receiving an implant and at different stages after receiving an implant. Thus, for instance, before implant, only nearly 20% of children were using oral communication, whereas 80% were using signed communication. On the other hand, 1 year after implant, almost 40% of children were using oral communication and 60% were using signed communication. After 3 years of implant, 70% of children were using oral communication and only about 30% were using sign communication. Overall, the image was very informative. This horizontal bar chart depicts information regarding the main reasons why companies favor outsourcing. More than 35% of the reasons involve cost reduction. 35% of the reasons have to do with focusing on core competencies. About 13% of the reasons are related to improving quality. 10% of the reasons have to do with the increasing speed of the market. To foster innovation represents less than 5% of the reasons, and conserving capital only represents about 2%. This bar chart provides information related to the Ivy League colleges acceptance rates concerning the class of 2014. There are two main rates: the regular decision acceptance rate and the early decision action acceptance rate. Overall, most percentages of students accepted belong to the second category. Thus, for example, Cornell accepted about 33% of the students under this modality, and Penn accepted a little more than 30% of students under the same modality. Overall, the image was very informative about regular decision acceptance rate and the early decision action acceptance rate. This chart describes the nervous system. According to the chart, the nervous system is divided into two main parts: the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is in turn subdivided into two main parts: efferent and efferent. The efferent part is also subdivided into two parts: the somatic nervous system and the automatic nervous system. And the later system is subdivided into parasympathetic and sympathetic. The central nervous system, on the other hand, is only subdivided into two parts: the brain and the spinal cord. The bar chart illustrates information concerning the amount of gold bars, measured in thousands of millions of dollars, that were imported in the period that goes from April of 2007 to March of 2011. From April 2007 to March 2008, $2,648 million worth of gold bars were imported. From April 2008 to March 2009, $4,639.38 million were imported, and from April 2009 to March 2010, $7,474.43 million were imported, and from April 2010 to March 2011, $8,275.63 million worth of gold bars were imported.
If there's one thing you should learn in economics, it's supply and demand. Let's use the example of the market for strawberries to help us understand this concept. If the price goes up for strawberries, then some buyers will go buy blueberries, or they might decide to not consume any kind of berry. Basically, they will buy less strawberries. But if the price goes down for strawberries, then buyers are going to purchase more. This is called the law of demand. When prices go up, people buy less, and when prices go down, people buy more. What about supply? Well, let's take, for instance, a farmer. The price of strawberries goes up. The farmer will make more profit and thus be encouraged to produce more strawberries. However, if the price of strawberries goes down, the farmer will not want to produce more strawberries. This is what we call the law of supply. Now, let's use the same example to see how both laws work together. If the price of strawberries is really high, let's say at $10, then producers will want to produce large quantities of this fruit, but consumers won't want to buy them. This mismatch is called a surplus. And likewise, if the price of strawberries goes down to $1, for example, then consumers will want to purchase a lot, but the producers will not feel encouraged to produce much. And this mismatch is called a shortage. Finally, we have what is called an equilibrium price. And this is when the quantity that buyers want to buy is equal to the quantity at which sellers want to sell, and thus supply equals demand.
The lecture was about a basic economics concept, the concept of supply and demand. In brief, the law of demand has to do with how consumers react to the changes in the prices of products. Thus, if prices go up, buyers will not want to purchase as much, whereas if prices go down, buyers will want to purchase more. The law of supply, on the other hand, works like this: if prices of products go up, producers will feel encouraged to yield more, to make more profits. But if prices are down, producers will feel discouraged to yield more. Nonetheless, the lecture specifies that there is something called an equilibrium price. This is when the quantity at which buyers want to buy is equal to the quantity at which sellers want to sell.
Today we are going to talk about inflation. What is inflation? In short, inflation is the rate of increase in prices for goods and services. Currently, inflation is measured in many ways. The most common measures are the Consumer Prices Index, CPI, and the Retail Prices Index, or PI. What these measures do is track how prices of hundreds of things we commonly spend money on have changed over time. The inflation rates are expressed as percentages. For instance, If we hear that CPI is 3%, we must understand that the price of products and services we buy is 3% higher than a year earlier. Overall, economists believe that inflation has both good and bad effects. An increase in the general level of prices, for example, implies a decrease in the purchasing power of a currency, which basically means that people can buy less goods and services. The problem is that inflation is not distributed evenly in the economy. Thus, some people suffer its effects more than others. Another problem is that there have been many theories regarding the causes of inflation, which evidently makes it difficult for economists to reach definite solutions.
The lecture is about inflation. The speaker says that inflation is when the prices of the goods and services that people generally purchase increase. However, economists don't agree on what the cause of inflation are because there have been many theories concerning that. The speaker also says that among the many ways that exist to measure inflation, the two most common measures are the Consumer Prices Index (CPI) and Retail Prices Index (RPI). Inflation is expressed in terms of percentages. If we hear that CPI is 3%, that means the prices of the products and services we buy is 3% higher than last year.
Jeans are worn by people of all classes, but it wasn't always like that. In the beginning, they were designed especially for American miners. In brief, Levi Strauss, a German immigrant who had settled in San Francisco in 1853, noticed the need that miners had for tougher clothing, since the gold rush had attracted so many of them. And as everybody knows, working in a mine implies a lot of crawling along shafts, among other clothes-wearing-out activities. At first, he had his stock of brown cotton tent canvas run up as plain trousers, with no belt loops and no back pockets, which were cheap and felt good. But then he switched to denim, originally from France, and decided to have it dyed in indigo. By the 1860s, miners, farmers, and cattlemen from the West were using jeans on a daily basis. The name jeans is actually a nickname in honor of Genoa, where sailors wore blue cotton canvas.
Jeans were invented in America in 1853 by Levi Strauss, a German immigrant who settled in San Francisco. At the time, a lot of people were going to the American West hoping to find gold. Most of them were miners who needed tougher clothes to carry out their activities. That's what inspired Levi Strauss to use a stock of brown cotton tent canvas he had to manufacture trousers. They worked, and they were cheap. He later decided to use denim dyed in indigo.
Wrist is to bracelet as neck is to what?
Necklace.
Which language is more spoken around the world, Chinese or French?
Chinese.
What does GPS stand for?
Global Positioning System.
If you mix red paint with white paint, what color do you get?
Pink.
Mural painting is also known as fresco painting. True or false?
True.
What does USA stand for?
United States of America.
What is Hollywood associated with?
American cinema.
The former name of New York was New Amsterdam. True or false?
True.
Which one is mostly associated with the Thanksgiving Day holiday, lamb or turkey?
Turkey.
Canberra has always been the capital of Australia. True or false?
False.
Internships happen mostly during the last 3 semesters before all courses are finally completed in college. But students are to keep one foot on campus in order to keep themselves informed concerning the latest college updates, like exam dates, project submission dates, library facilities usage, etc. Be it as it may, during the internship period, students face challenges. Internship is a bumpy road for those who do not keep their supervisors in the loop. Proactive students know they would be overwhelmed with the quantum of workload at the office as well as the classwork. So, taking advantage of the experience of a mentor is definitely a bright idea. Students who don't consult a supervisor may feel lost from time to time, since coping with classwork due to unplanned working hours can be difficult. Also, the quality of work given to interns is usually quite menial. So, even though they are spending time at the workplace, there is no job satisfaction. What's more, not getting enough to eat at fixed hours, for instance, can add to the problems. Basically, this is the transition from being a student to being a professional.
An electric iron is a general household appliance used to press the wrinkles out of clothes. This device works on the basis that the combination of heat and pressure removes wrinkles. The principle of the electric iron is that when current is passed through the coil gets red hot and transfers the heat to the base plate of the electric iron through conduction. In the earlier days, steam irons were used, but they have some maintenance issues due to clogging. Steam irons usually have vents through which the water passes. As the steam iron gets used, the minerals from the water slowly accumulate in the vents and block water from passing through. Thus, the efficiency of the steam iron is compromised, and it has to be cleaned and maintained regularly to ensure its proper working. In addition, if you live in an area where hard water is used, then clogging is a major problem.
The beverage made with the spices or herbs from plants infused in hot water, just like tea leaves but without caffeine, real tea leaves, after being plucked and treated still have caffeine, is commonly known as herbal tea. These herbs lack caffeine, but they are full of antioxidants. The best part is that this beverage can also be served cold. The history of herbal tea dates back to ancient China and Egypt, but these teas are not always a blessing if care is not properly taken. For example, if the refining process is not properly conducted, they might be full of toxic ingredients. However, most herbal teas are more or less safe to consume, but one has to be careful while taking medicinal herbal leaves, as medicinal herbs may have side effects.
It is the carbon dioxide trapped inside a soda bottle which creates the bubbles or fizz when the cap is cracked after shaking the bottle a bit. This happens when carbon dioxide and water are forced into such high pressure. This is what produces the s sound that comes after opening a soda, and what provides the tingling feeling while drinking it. There is obviously a scientific reason which can be ascribed to this phenomenon, since no mojo or magic is causing the fizz. A lot of research has been done on how to preserve this fizz for an optimum time period after the soda bottle has been opened. This knowledge can further be employed while adding soda to other drinks and cocktails.
The natural phenomenon which consists in the mass of objects gravitating towards other objects, and which maintains the balance of celestial bodies, is called gravitation. Gravity is responsible for the complexity in the universe, since it creates spheres of hydrogen, igniting them under pressure, forming stars which later form galaxies. Without gravity, our universe would be an uncomplicated one, existing without thermal energy and composed only of equally spaced particles. On Earth, gravity gives weight to physical objects and causes tides. Gravity has an infinite range, and it cannot be absorbed or transformed.
When temperatures are low enough, dew takes the form of ice. This form is called frost. Because dew is related to the temperature of surfaces, in the late summer it forms easily on surfaces that are not warmed by conducted heat from the deep ground, such as grass, leaves, railings, car roofs, and bridges. Dew should not be confused with guttation, which is the process by which plants release excess water from the tips of their leaves.
In North American usage, a flyover is a high-level overpass built above main overpass lanes or a bridge built over what used to be an at-grade intersection. Traffic engineers usually refer to the latter as a grade separation. A flyover may also be an extra ramp added to an existing interchange, either replacing an existing cloverleaf loop or being built in place of one, with a higher and faster ramp that eventually bears left, or by being built as a right or left exit. A cloverleaf or partial cloverleaf contains 270-degree loops, which can slow traffic and can be difficult to construct with multiple lanes. Where all such turns are replaced with flyovers, perhaps with some underpasses, only 90-degree turns are needed, and there may be 4 or more distinct levels of traffic. Depending upon design, traffic may flow in all directions at or near open road speeds when not congested.
More than 80% of all eyeglasses worn today have plastic lenses. But plastic lenses have not always been the lens of choice. The glass lens remained dominant until 1952, when plastic lenses were introduced. The plastic lens rapidly grew in popularity because the lens was lighter and less prone to breakage. Today, the manufacturer of plastic eyeglass lenses far exceeds the manufacturer of glass lenses. But the process has remained much the same for both types. Plastic lenses, as well as glass lenses, are produced by successive stages of fine grinding, polishing, and shaping. On the other hand, while the same process is used to produce lenses for telescopes, microscopes, binoculars, cameras, and various projectors, such lenses are usually larger and thicker and require greater precision and power.
Clogged ears are a common occurrence and can happen to persons of any age. This condition can be extremely painful and leave the ears sensitive. Clogged ears is a condition that is most often seen in children, especially when they suffer with a cold. This occurs when fluids accumulate in the ear. Clogged ears can also occur due to a buildup of earwax. The most common symptoms of a clogged ear are pain and the inability to sleep, accompanied with a headache. Fortunately, this situation is treatable with home care and medications, and can be prevented with a few lifestyle changes. There are many reasons that may cause the symptoms associated with a clogged ear. Understanding these causes in detail and being aware of the available treatment methods will come in handy to anyone.
Onion is a vegetable. The round underground part of the onion called the bulb is used to make medicines. Onion is used for treating digestive problems. One should have onions in their daily diet as there are numerous advantages to having them. One of their main effects is curing health-related issues like treating acidity, lowering body temperature, and helping the proper food digestion. Among many others, while cooking with onions, proper care should be taken as, though they look hard, they have a tender inner skin.
Having a fixed, or let's say an almost fixed, sort of timetable actually helps me plan my day more efficiently. I never lag behind in any of my targets, and I never nurture the guilt of delay. It ensures smooth and orderly work, prevents wastage of time, and keeps one in a good mood. Once I am done with the target work for the week, I don't care whether I complete it early. I simply While some people cannot resist food of any kind at any given time, others easily control their urge. What is the reason for which some people can get over their appetite that is the basic drive of any person but is equally complex from case to case? It is the two organs functioning in sync that lead to hunger pangs. When the brain releases the hormone ghrelin, the stomach reacts to it and starts producing a chilling sensation, so much that one could
Some people use lactobacillus for general digestive issues irritable bowel syndrome IBS called Crohn's disease in infants, inflammation of the colon, and the serious gut problem called necrotizing enterocolitis NEC in babies born prematurely. Lactobacillus is also used for infections caused by Helicobacter pylori, the kind of bacteria that causes ulcers, and also for other types of infections, including urinary tract infections and vaginal yeast infections in growing girls. It is used to prevent the common cold in adults and to prevent respiratory infections in adults attending daycare centers. It is also being tested to stop serious infections in patients on ventilators.
The documentation for Cake PHP definitely needs to update its default ways for creating fancy URLs. If compared with other frameworks such as Symfony, Cake PHP loses the battle in this case. Many still believe that Cake PHP is easier to learn, but they haven't come across frameworks such as CodeIgniter, which makes learning all the more easy. One-way skating in Cake PHP often proves to be a blessing when compared with frameworks such as Emerald and Rails.
Teachers are the best motivators, hence their choice of words is important. Teachers are the best motivators, hence their choice of words is important.
The Alumni Association of this college works really hard towards benefiting the different schools.
If you are not able to do it all, delegate some tasks to your teammates.